Hey everybody, welcome back to The Pressing Matters. I'm Scott. Thank you for tuning in today, and thank you for your support. Today, I am proud to announce that we're just about to hit 4,000 subscribers. We're like 20 shy, and I wanted to ask if there's anyone who hasn't subscribed yet and is watching to please subscribe right now. Hit notifications so you'll be sure to get notified of any new content that comes up and push me above 4,000. So thank you so much for doing that. Also, since we're hitting 4,000, I thought it might be a nice time to start this series. I was kind of waiting. I had it on the back burner, just kind of mulling it over how I would approach it. But I wanted to make sure I had enough of an audience that would support it. So it is a series about building a classical record library, and something that I did some time ago, over the last couple of decades or more. During the time when people were dumping their records for CDs, the thrift stores around here in Miami were awash in classical records, and that's where I picked up most of my classical record collection. Most of it in beautiful shape. A lot of people took care of their records or didn't even play them. So I found wonderful stuff, and I completed most of my RCA Living Stereo, Mercury Living Presence, Decca London, some EMI, and put together a really nice collection. And I have a lot of favorites and things I wanted to tell you about, and I'm going to do it through this series. So I hope you'll stick with me and maybe learn a thing or two about classical if you don't know already. Classical music orchestral music was used primarily in evaluating hi-fi components back in the day. And the reason being that most of it was simply recorded and were real instruments, the complete orchestra on a stage. So, you would get the true effect of a stereo sound stage. You would get the true sound of most of the instruments, and you could evaluate how real everything sounded, the space, the hall sound, all of that is, it's a perfect medium to evaluate hi-fi equipment. And matter of fact, when I was growing up in this audiophile, hobby, the absolute sound was kind of my Bible, and that was when it was sort of shaped like a Bible. And I should show you one of those actually. For those too young to know or to remember, the absolute sound used to come like this. It had a great illustration on the front cover. It came out every 2 months, maybe 3 months. Sometimes it was not on a regular schedule. And it's amazing. They have a lot of record reviews, equipment reviews, very lively comments forum. And this is back in the day where they were not accepting advertising. And you know how advertising can corrupt any corporation or entity and make them biased towards the advertiser. And they laid it on the line as far as what they thought about things. And a lot of times it upset the companies. I remember negative reviews of Audio Research, Conrad Johnson, and they would scurry back and make a revision of their preamp or whatever to make HP happy and give them a good review. So that's why back in the day you saw a lot of revisions of things, because the audiophile press was pretty critical, and that was a great thing. And the record reviews were superb. At some point, Michael Fremer was writing for them, and as well as Stereophile, and he contributed a lot of popular record reviews. But that's kind of where I got a lot of my appreciation for classical music. And one of the things one of the things I discovered, I remember reading about in the Absolute Sound, was the Reader's Digest series. And I thought, well, Reader's Digest, don't they put out like these big clunky boxes of mood music and, you know, Hawaiian theme and French theme music? You know, I just thought, well, how could they have a classical series of any importance? Well, the classical series was a project, and it was done with quality in mind. It was put together in like 1964 or 5, and the record started appearing around 1966, I think. And they put out 5 or 6 major boxes of classical music. And the person behind all this project was Charles Gerhardt, who was a conductor and producer. And he organized and coordinated the whole thing. And he engaged the best engineer possible, which was Kenneth Wilkinson. Kenneth Wilkinson was doing engineering for Decca and produced some of the best sounding recordings of all time. He was put in charge of the engineering. They were able to access the top talent of the day, so the top conductors, and they allowed the conductors to do their specialties. So these were brand new recordings done to perfection in the best halls in the world. Kingsway Hall. This particular set that I'm going to talk about was done at Walthamstow Town Assembly Hall. Great sounding halls, and these recordings are stunning. Let me tell you about this one. This is the one I'm featuring today. This is called the Romantic Rachmaninoff. Romantic Rachmaninoff. And it is a 4-record set. It has the 4 piano concertos, plus Isle of the Dead and Rhapsody on a theme of Paganini. It is conducted by Jascha Horenstein with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. And the featured soloist, the pianist, is Earl Wild. Earl Wild did one famous recording, at least one famous recording for RCA, and that was the Gershwin American in Paris, Rhapsody in Blue. And that's where I knew him from. And although I think that disc is a little weak, his playing on this set is otherworldly. It's amazing. He's a wonderful technician, but he brings a lot of feeling into the music as well. And these recordings are stunning. The balance between, you know, most concerto recordings, at least on RCA, a lot of times the soloist will sound bigger than life, and the orchestra will sound kind of not so great, honestly. And you know, if you listen to some Clyburn recordings or even the Rubinstein recordings, concerto recordings, you'll notice that oftentimes the orchestra does not sound great. And with this set, the orchestra sounds perfect. Beautiful separation, clarity on the instruments, excellent tonality, and that could stand on its own. But the way they integrate the pianist is perfect too. It's not outsized or larger than life. It's as you would hear in a concert hall. And for that reason, I give this set very, very high marks. Obviously, other people thought so too, because Chesky Records did several reissues of the music in this box. They remastered it just like these are, and released the discs just as they appear in here. I think they did all 4. And there was also a label called Quintessence that did a series. This is a budget label, called Critics' Choice. Quintessence was put together by Pickwick Records, and you may say, Pickwick, they have junk, but actually they did a really fine job on this series. They are all focused on Kenneth Wilkinson recordings, and some also more latent recordings from RCA. And they're beautifully done. They're pressed on thin vinyl, but it's virgin vinyl, and the masterings are excellent. So if you wanted to pick up some of the music from this collection and you can't find the Reader's Digest box, these are available for like $5 or $10 on the used market. Not much at all. So let me show you how this box looks. It comes in a slipcase like this. All of the Reader's Digest sets come like this. This one has a booklet, and talks about behind the recordings, behind the music, a bit about Rachmaninoff, something about Earl Wild and Jascha Horenstein. Very nice little booklet. They also came with a lot of paraphernalia, which I always find fascinating when I find these records. A welcome booklet. So here you can see one of their mood music boxes. Mood music for listening and relaxation. The great big band era. You know, if you were searching for records, you always saw these sitting around in thrift shops. But this is a classical one called Magical World of Melody. And you can see the price. It was $17.96 for these sets. World's Great Piano Music, Popular Music That Will Live Forever, The Great Band Era. This one I'm going to cover in more detail in a future video. It's called Festival of Light Classical Music. It's fantastic. If you see it, grab it. And operettas, mood music for listening and relaxation. Another highlight is this one called Treasury of Great Music. Fantastic record set. And the 9 symphonies of Beethoven, music of the world's greatest composers. There's a Christmas album, and so forth. These are more a country one called Jamboree, the world's greatest waltzes, and so on. They always had these cards in there that you could send to your friends, so they could subscribe as well. What's this? More advertising for Fiesta and April in Paris. Those were international themes. And the records come in polylined sleeves. They are RCA custom pressings. These are done at the Indianapolis plant, and they're beautifully done. Perfect pressings. Nice rounded edge, always centered, always perfect. And you know, when you find these classical ones, you'll often find that they're in perfect shape. People bought these, you know, because they thought they should have them, and they were so cheap that they were like, oh, I should build a classical record library. And they didn't really listen to them, and oftentimes they're unplayed. So definitely check out the condition when you find one and see what shape it's in. I bet 9 times out of 10 they're going to be near mint. So one thing I have to mention about these is, if you know RCA living stereo history, there was a period where they started something new called Dynagroove, and Dynagroove got a bad rap in the Absolute Sound and the other audiophile journals. What Dynagroove was kind of a loudness contour for engineering records. It made the record sound better and more full at low volumes. Once they branded the term, it appeared on all records, but I have a suspicion that they did not apply the process to all the records. And in this set, I don't think it was applied. because these sound just like, pre-Dynagroove sound. And the sound in these is comparable to the best Decca Londons and the best living stereos. And as a matter of fact, I think it surpasses them in sheer beauty of orchestral sound and balance between the soloist and the orchestra. So don't let the fact that you see Dynagroove on the label put you off. But one thing I would say about these Reader's Digest sets is look at the dead wax, and if possible, if you have a choice of several, pick one that has Indianapolis stampers. It'll have an I stamped into the dead wax across from the matrix number. Those are the best pressings. They're the quietest, they're the most well made, and they're gorgeous. So that's one tip I have for you with these Reader's Digest sets. So, the music, you probably know, even if you're not a classical music fan. I'm sure you've heard parts of Piano Concerto No. 2, Rhapsody on a Theme of Paganini. They're very famous passages that everyone knows, and you're going to love it. You're just absolutely going to love it. Even if you already have recordings of these works, I highly suggest getting these. If you get them in the Chesky pressings, they're going to be a little more pricey. If you can find this box in near mint condition, get it. The pressings are just as good as the Cheskys. If you fail in those two regards, the Quintessence series is very easy to come by and is highly recommended as well. I just put on the Quintessence last night and I was like, wow, this sounds as good as any modern audiophile recording. And I think when they came out, they were like $398 or something like that. Very cheap. And they just did a great job on them. It says on there that we press on virgin vinyl, we use a Neumann lathe, and blah, blah, blah. It's kind of an audiophile endeavor, but it was done to a budget. So that's good for you. And let's see, what else can I say about it? I think that's about it. For the first installment of the classical record series, Building a Classical Library. I hope this gets a lot of response, and I hope to do another one shortly. If you have any comments, please leave them in the comment section below. Until next time, thank you again for getting us to 4,000. Let's shoot to 5,000, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.